So we're going to be talking about this clip from Vladimir Solovoyev where he's still pissed off about all the tanks that are going to be going to Ukraine from Western countries. He interestingly brings on a guest that is a former member of the Russian military, and this guest tamps down a lot of Solovoyev's fiery rhetoric, much to Solovoyev's angst about the whole thing and anger. And it started getting me thinking, the dude that he brings on is a former high-ranking official from the Kremlin. He's no longer with the Kremlin, but he was tight in with the military aspects of the Kremlin. And I'm starting to wonder if there isn't a tail wagging the dog situation here in which these propagandists who are very much operating outside of the standard rhetoric that the Kremlin is pushing with nuclear weapons, etc., if that's not something that they're trying to stir up a fervor within the people to force Putin into doing something. I don't know if that's necessarily true. Putin is still quite powerful, and likely with a snap of his fingers, guys like Solovoyev can disappear. But I'm wondering if the usefulness of Solovoyev is still there when he continues to say things like, what are we doing? Why aren't we attacking further? Why aren't we nuking countries when that is not the goal of the Kremlin? Putin spoke to China and India, and they said that those countries would turn their back on Russia if a nuclear weapon was used. But guys like Solovoyev continue to press that. Is that just trying to be an extension of Putin to say, so Putin has plausible deniability that it wasn't him, it was just his propagandists? Or is it, like I said, tail wagging the dog? I don't know. But we'll kind of discuss further as we go through this.
Для них нет вопросов, почему они там находятся. С кем они воюют? Они воюют с немцами.
So yeah, apparently the Russians are fighting the Germans in Ukraine, not the Ukrainians.
Это укронацисты, это поляки, это американцы, это
and apparently the Colombians, that's a new one for me.
Куча мразей нацистские. Для них это все немцы, для них это продолжение Великой Отечественной. Кстати, смотрят они на то, что дома происходит.
The soldiers on the front line look at what's going on and ask, why the fuck are we here?
И на них придется отвечать.
Why aren't we nuking
them? У нас
them?
как-то часть общества так и не может понять, что война на самом деле идет. Священная.
It's interesting that he says patriotic war, because patriotic war is what they call World War II, and it's almost like he's trying to prime the Russian population for another world war, which is not what Putin has been saying is going to happen. Ukraine and Russia is a cross-border dispute where Russia thinks that Ukraine belongs to Russia, not the start of World War III, but guys like Solovoyev and other propagandists are saying that this is the next patriotic war, and they keep hammering it over and over again as if they want the population to believe that World War III is taking place, so that if it does take place, they're ready. I just don't think that's the case, that Russia is in a position to fight a war against NATO, and I think Putin knows that, but guys like Solovoyev have no problem beating that drum, either because they truly know that there wouldn't be that war and they're trying to just continue to stir up this fervor to get more draftees, or he's really dumb. He really is that dumb and thinks that they could win a war against NATO. I don't know. They keep saying things like they're at war against NATO, against 50 satanic countries. There's not 50 countries in NATO, but whatever.
Какого количества танков мы наконец скажем? Любая страна,
поставившая
танки, мы ее считаем участником боевых действий, ее территорию считаем законной военной целью.
Это танковая тема сейчас на Западе. Да, потому что они готовят нашего противника к наступательным действиям.
He's right. The first stage was containment. We wanted to stop Russia's advance. Now the second stage is providing them with equipment to eject Russia, which would be tanks. And that includes Crimea. He talks about losing the control of the Black Sea. They had lost the control of the Black Sea long ago, and they still don't have control of the Black Sea. The Black Sea is controlled by Turkey, and we've seen that because the Turks have shut off the Turkish Straits to Russian warships. If they controlled the Black Sea right now, they would have the ability to move new warships in to, replace the Moskva, which was sunk back in April. So this idea that they're losing control of the Black Sea is nonsense. They don't have control of the Black Sea even now. They didn't have control of the Black Sea when Crimea was taken back in 2014.
Syria.
That's actually kind of a burn on Solovoyev. You need a brain to brandish. You don't need a brain to brandish nuclear weapons. This dude's right. Many nuclear powers have fought against non-nuclear nations, and the outcome was less than ideal. Obviously, with the U.S., Vietnam, both Russia and the United States and Afghanistan. Although Afghanistan, we won the war, we just couldn't win the nation-building aspect and gave up on that.
применять их современной техникой.
Ядерное оружие, если его не использовать, опасная тенденция. Сейчас у нас превосходство в тактическом ядерном оружии. Только нахрена оно нужно, если мы не собираемся его использовать?
That's an interesting question. He asked, why the heck do we have nuclear weapons if we can't use them? And the dude talked about this before, apparently. But the answer is because in Russian doctrine, nuclear weapons are a defensive capability used only when there is an existential crisis against Russia, meaning the existence of Russia is threatened, not when you're going to lose your invasion of another country. That's not what Russian doctrine states. In fact, Putin blessed off on Russian doctrine, stating that it was an existential threat situation, not for invasion. He originally was using nuclear weapons as a saber-rattling tactic, but like I said, China and India told him to cut that shit out, so he's stopped that. Solovoyev doesn't seem to get that. He thinks that if a country has nuclear weapons, they should use them in an offensive capability. Well, that goes both ways. Nuclear weapons in countries such as Britain, France, the United States, pointed at Russia, hurt just as much as a Russian nuke. So that's what's kind of silly about his argument, that he wants to use nuclear weapons in Ukraine. And as I've said before, nuclear weapons make a big boom in a small place. It wouldn't change necessarily the calculus of the war. In fact, it would probably strengthen the West's resolve and increase the West's support of Ukraine to the point where Russia would probably lose a lot quicker. And I think Putin knows that.
Я нахрена нужно, я тебе как-то сказал на передаче, если бы у нас ядерного оружия не было, то давно эти 10 тысяч абрамсов и 2500 Леопардов-2 и 400...
Так они сейчас и так будут.
Они будут, но будут порциями, эти порции надо уничтожать.
Ну хорошо, но если, извини. Ну, то есть, получается, не было бы у нас ядерного оружия, не было бы 10 тысяч, а сейчас у нас есть ядерное оружие, пойдут сначала сотни, потом тысячи. Класс.
Like, I don't think he has the foresight to think of what happens after they use a nuke. Are they just like, we'll nuke Kyiv, and then the whole West will be like, oh no, and back off? That's not how that works.
Пока они не... Извини, а
He's
сейчас они
correct.
списывают
It would
Россию
escalate
тем,
to a
что обладая
strategic nuclear situation in
3,5-кратной
which Russia
превосходством
would
в
lose
обычной
or
технике
everyone
НАТО над
loses,
нами,
period.
они постепенно, приучая нас, это превосходство пытаются реализовать. Поставляя все де-факто, они уже поставляют технику НАТО не со складов. Поляки уже отдают то, что у них в боевых рядах. Шведы отдают то, что у них в боевых рядах. Прибалты отдают
It's
то,
because
что у
we
них
want
на
to
вооружении
reject
армии
Russia from
стоит.
Ukraine, period.
Французы отдают то, что у них стоит на вооружении армии. Ну и...
Ukraine has no capability to invade Russia after they eject Russia from Ukraine. Nor would any Western country allow Ukraine to invade Russia, even if they had that aspiration. That's the end of the story. If Russia exits Ukraine, this war ends. Ukraine isn't going to chase Russia all the way back to Moscow and destroy them. They don't have the capability, and Western nations wouldn't allow that to happen. But that narrative doesn't work very well for guys like Solovoyev who want Russia to crush Ukraine, and it requires more men and more equipment. So they need a lot of support from their population.
В какой момент мы скажем «стоп», начинаем хреначить?
Ну, а можно сначала наносить удар вот по тем, как я сказал, уничтожать обычным оружием все то, что поставляется туда. Ну, хотя бы это.
А нельзя уничтожить обычным оружием все то, что они могут поставить.
Потому
что у них превосходство в этом. Потому что у них 3,5 раза больше обычного вооружения, чем у нас.
Если вот эти
3.5 times more. It's actually more like 12 times more.
Ну, их уничтожим, дальше они поставят несколько тысяч. У них несколько тысяч, ты мне сам рассказывал. Леопардов не у поляков, а в общем разбросано по Европе.
В странах НАТО, да. Значит, но если они поймут бесперспективность поставок, если что-то уничтожается, я думаю...
А с чего они это поймут? С чего они это поймут? Им вообще плевать. Но уничтожается. Вот мы сколько уничтожили, они поняли, надо больше давать. Они ничего не поймут. У войны, как ты знаешь прекрасно, как человек много воевавший, свои законы. Только эскалация. Сейчас ничего не страшно. Конечно, надо прекращать, но прекращать надо жесточайшим образом. У нас на...
That sigh at the end. That dude just sighing at Solovoyev and his nonsense is kind of what sums up the whole video. And I'm almost starting to wonder also if isn't a population of Russia that's still there, that hasn't fled, that isn't sighing as well in just complete disgust at what people like Solovoyev are saying. And potentially Putin uses Solovoyev as a scapegoat. Like he says, I wasn't the one that was rattling the sabers. Solovoyev went rogue, and I don't know. That's pretty far-fetched considering Russia's understanding of how Putin controls everything. But there you go. The second half of this video is he talks to another person. I might do a video about that because it's kind of interesting as well. But yeah, they're pissed about the tanks being delivered as expected. But what are they going to do?
связи